Cool, and welcome back for the second session of the Digital Writers Festival 2015. This one's Show and Tell New Kinds of Narratives. This is akin to what you might have been used to in your grade 1 class, coming up and showing what you got up to on the weekend. This one's perhaps a little bit more impressive. So in this session, we're joining a small handful of writers and app developers as in quick succession they're going to let you know about their latest games, their latest writing tools, and their latest interactive projects. With each artist given exactly 3 minutes to describe their work, DWF's Show and Tell is going to provide the best way to sample exactly what's happening across the literary web in 2015. So first up, we have Adelaide Reef. Originally from Melbourne, Adelaide is now a fiercely proud resident of the fine city of Canberra, a devoted bike rider and a curious cook. She was a co-coordinator of Scissors Paper Pen, a local literary collective presenting readings, workshops, and a radio show. She's a broadcaster on 2XX FM and a producer for You Are Here, which is Canberra's amazing, incredible festival of experimental and emerging arts. All right, Adelaide, you have 3 minutes starting now.
Great. Hi, everyone. I don't think I'm going to take up 3 minutes, but who knows? Sometimes I ramble. So the project that I'm presenting for you today is called Tours of the Near Future. So it's a really challenging project for me, based off a kind of larger idea that I've been rolling around in my head for a little while. The idea really germinated out of a short story that I wrote. Ended up kind of a script for a tour or perhaps a podcast, the kind of podcast that you might download and use around a city. That I wrote was called "Described a World Where the Earth Had Flooded and the Sea to the weather and to the sea creatures." So there was plastic that was becoming a part of birds, there were squids with hairy pelts, there was plastic confetti hurricanes, so it was sort of a bit tongue-in-cheek, meant to be a little bit funny and kind of corny. I wanted to find a way to present this tour or a vision of a possible future that drew on a way of learning about something that people were quite familiar with, so specifically in this case a tour. Most commonly a tour is a tourist activity, something that you do when you go and visit a place, and it's usually learning about the past or the present. The starting point framework for which there's going to be some kind of apocalyptic future, not could happen in this, might happen in this place, cease to exist as we know it. So this particular iteration of the project would essentially involve a script being written by myself or a writer, and it would narrate a tour of a place local to myself or to the writer who I've commissioned. So they would then essentially deliver that tour, or perhaps it might be a performer who delivers that tour via live video stream. So the writer or the actor will be in the physical space where the tour is held with probably a smartphone, streaming the video footage from that actual location while also narrating the tour. And then what will happen as they deliver that tour is that overlaid over the live video footage will be animations or illustrations that essentially augment the footage to build the possible as it's being narrated. So I'm just going to try and give you an example using the draw function on Google Hangout. So let me just get the mouse to work. So say, for example, I was in a location and I wanted to present a tour, so I might create the buildings behind me. I hope this is working. This was a bit of an experiment.
Oh, that's great.
And then clouds in the background, and maybe a rainbow if it's a sunny day. Might also be like that. So the idea, I'm just going to put my headphones on quickly because I'm getting a little bit of interference. So just give me 2 seconds. Oh, wait. Aha. Can you hear me? Still, everybody?
Yeah.
Aha. Okay, goodo. So that's kind of the idea, and essentially I'm not quite sure which technology I'll end up using to really make the live streaming with the augmented kind of illustration over the top. I mean, Google Hangouts works for this kind of really basic thing, and when I shake my head, so the buildings and the clouds shake with me. But there are some other technologies that I've been looking into, and this particular type of functionality or use of technology is really new to me, so it's very much kind of as I go along, learning all this sort of stuff and working with the local hackerspace here in Canberra to try and come up with ways that it could work. And then in terms of the actual narrative of the piece or the content of the piece, I'm not really sure what the near future is at the moment, even though that's what I've called the project. I mean, near could be 10 years from now, or it could be 100 years from now. It could be that we are imagining a future place, or it could be that we're really far in the future and we're at a time that is in the future still to us in the present, but in the past for the person who's actually narrating the tour. And the tour itself might not be a tour of a kind of a significant location. It might be a different type of tour, something that is more everyday. So perhaps, for example, when you want to buy a house and you go and the real estate agent gives you a tour of the prospective house, or a security guard giving another person a handover as they change shifts. So maybe you could think of the tour as a way of guiding someone through a space, not just giving them a tour of a significant location. And I've kind of toyed with the idea of recording the live streamed video as a video podcast, or even just the audio as a podcast. And that's about as far as I've gotten with the project at the moment. And I'm keen to hear from people if they're interested in the project or they've seen something like this before that they want to share with me. As well as anybody who would be keen to write something for the project. One thing that that's a part of my kind of philosophy to producing events is that I like to be able to pay all of the artists involved, even if it's not very much. So if that's setting off alarm bells in your head, please get in touch. But yeah, that's the project, and that's that gone. Great.
Great.
Awesome. So I might as well mention at this stage that if anyone wants to ask any questions of these artists or wants to participate in the projects that they're working on, use the hashtag DWF15 and we'll queue them all up and we'll put all the tricky questions to them at the end. Karis seems to have dropped out, so hopefully we'll have her back very soon. Up next, we'll have Annabelle Smith. Annabelle is the author of The Ark, Whiskey Charlie Foxtrot, and A New Map of the Universe, the latter of which was shortlisted for the WA Premier's Book Awards. Her short fiction and non-fiction has been published in Southerly, Westerly, Northerly, all directions, and periodicals. She holds a PhD in writing, is an Australia Council Creative Australia Fellow, and is a member of the editorial board of Margaret River Press. And I think today she's going to be talking about, unless I am mistaken, The Ark, her narrative storytelling digital amazing project. Take it away, Annabelle.
Okay, thanks Connor, thanks for the welcome, thanks for having me. The Ark is a digital interactive novel and app which tells the story of a group of scientists and their families who retreat into a bunker tunneled inside Mount Kosciuszko during a post-peak oil crisis. And it was interesting to hear Adelaide talk about the definition of near future, because I consider this a near future book. It's set 25 years from now. And inside the seed bank, inside the bunker is a seed bank which holds the key to the future of life on Earth. It was developed with the support of an Australia Council Creative Australia Fellowship, and it was envisaged as an interactive multi-channel approach to storytelling, which would generate new ways for people to connect with fiction and consume fiction, and even just to interpret what fiction means kind of in the modern era. So readers can toggle between the ebook and the web-based app to access bonus content, which allows them to dive deeper into the world of the novel. And I'm just going to show you a little bit from the okay. I can't find the piece I was looking for. Okay. No, all right. Well, where is this? Here. Can you see that or not? No? All right. I'm trying to show you my screen share. Sorry. Technical issues. It's not coming up. Okay, not to worry. That's fine. I will show you. So one of the things they can access is the physical space inside the bunker. They can sort of have a video tour of the bunker in which the novel's set. And I wanted to show you one of these. This is the dormitory area where the inhabitants sleep, if I can make it work.
Oh, cool.
But I have to... So that's just one of the examples of things that people can see. And there are also, the website also includes additional sort of bonus content. For example, there are newspaper articles which provide backstory and further detail about what's happening in the wider world outside the Ark. There are deleted scenes with commentary which give readers an insight into the writing process. And one of the really big things I worked on for the project was a fan fiction hub. Fan fiction seems to be continuing to grow in popularity and cultural significance, and so the app was designed with user-generated content in mind. The fan fiction hub is designed to provide a forum for community creation around the novel. There's an extensive menu of fan fiction suggestions, and they encourage co-creation by readers across a range of formats. So as well as the traditional text-based fan fiction, readers can upload content in the form of audio files, videos, illustrations. They can also comment on blog posts from the novel and interact with characters on Twitter. So it's my hope that the narrative will continue to develop through this user-generated content. And that's it.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Annabelle. So next up, if Karis is with us, which she may or may not be. Okay, we may have Karis. We have no audio, we don't have a video. Cool. So I'll just introduce Karis. Karis McEwen is a Melbourne-based librarian, writer, and curator. She makes zines, participates in local exhibitions, and in late 2014, she self-published her blog, The Something Fine Project, with the support of Blurb Books and the Melbourne Writers Festival. And I think it's the Something Fine Project that Karis is going to be talking about today. And I'll just do a quick plug for another session that Karis is going to be in. It's on Valentine's Day. It's called Dedicated, Australian Writers Get Romantic. And it's going to be an event in which all audience members can dedicate particular pieces of writing to their loved ones, and then we'll have Karis and a bunch of others reading them out, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But I'll throw it over to Karis right now to chat about the Something Fine project.
Hi everyone, am I on?
Yep.
I'm Karis. I recently self-published my first book, which is based on a blog that I started in 2011. Basically, I'm from Perth, and I met my first love in high school. We dated for 4 years, and then very sadly it ended. And I moved to London as a kind of way to start afresh and try and forget about him, which I couldn't do. So I decided to take a new approach, and I kind of embraced the idea of first love, and I started emailing creative people from all around the world, asking them if they had had similar experiences with their first love. Did it impact their lives in a big way like it did to me? And I started compiling all their responses onto a blog called the Something Fine Project. There were stories, images, photos, drawings, like a bit of everything really. I even received a cross stitch in the mail once, which I scanned and put on the blog. And then I moved back, actually. The big part of that story is my first love was in London, and we actually ended up getting back together. So I didn't need to get over him, as it turned out. We're still together today. And so we moved back to Australia together. We moved to Melbourne. And I always wanted to turn the blog into a publication or something something offline, basically. But life got in the way and I didn't get a chance to. And then I was browsing the Melbourne Writers Festival website last year, and they ran a competition sponsored by Blurb Books to allow a blogger to self-publish their book, which I won, which was very nice. And this is my book.
Great. Wow.
So I used their software. Blurb is an online self-publishing platform. They have a software called Bookwrite, which basically my grandma, who doesn't even have a computer, could use and publish her own book if she wanted to. It's so easy to use. It's incredibly intuitive. You basically just plonk the images you want on the pages you want. I was going to screen share actually, but my computer's being a bit funny, so you just have to take my word for it. It's very easy to put a book together. There are definitely downsides to using the Blurb software. I found quite a few things. For example, they don't print on the spine, so my book doesn't have a spine. It looks a little bit unpolished. I don't love it, but Blurb actually offers a plugin for InDesign, which you can use, and then you can print on the spine and do a couple of extras like give it page numbers, which I couldn't do. But also, if you're not as confident with InDesign, which I wasn't at the time, I kind of regret not taking the time to, learn it a bit more. But I used the Blurb software, and it was fine. It was easy to use, as I've just said. Some of the benefits to self-publishing just in general, I mean, they're pretty obvious. It's pretty common sense. You get creative control if you self-publish. You don't have to put your work in the hands of a publisher or a big company who will make decisions about what your book will look like, which was amazing. I got some of my friends to design the awesome cover and the logo, and I got to choose what goes where kind of thing, which was really nice. Blurb is really good because they help you with the distribution. They assign you an ISBN, so you don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. They sell your book online for you. Quite expensive, Blurb. My book is full colour, 80 pages, but as you can see, it's small and it's quite thin. And my base price is about $22, and I sell it for $25, so I only make about $3 a book, which I don't think is that good. But if you're printing in black and white, actually, they're really cheap. So if you're self-publishing a novel, it would be a great option. So I think that was all I had to say. If you have any questions on Twitter or anything, let me know. And also, my blog, The Something Fine Project, is still going, even though there's a book out now. And I still accept contributions, first love stories. If you have a really good first love story, please send it to me. It doesn't have to be about a person. It doesn't have to be romantic love. I've got so many contributions that are about first pets or items of clothing or hobbies or my mom, whatever your first love may have been. So, yeah, and you can buy my book, as I just mentioned, on Blurb. If you just type in a Something Fine Project on their website, you can buy it for $25. And I'll just finish with that kind of self-plug-in. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Karis. Your book looks amazing. The design looks like absolutely phenomenal. And having gone through your Tumblr, like I'm sure the content is really, really fantastic as well. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy as soon as I can. Next up, I think we'll move to Mez Breeze, who's cheated just a little bit and who isn't actually participating in this chat, but she's on Twitter right now, and she's tweeting up a storm as at Mez Breeze Design. So Mez Breeze, since 1994, Mez's work on digital writing and games has been hugely influential in shaping the what we understand as interactive genres today. Her works now reside in collections like the World Bank, the National Library of Australia, and Duke University. Mez is also the creative director of at Mez Breeze Design and an advisor to the Mixed Augmented Reality Art Research Organisation, senior research affiliate with the Humanities and Critical Code Studies Lab, and the judge of Bournemouth University's 2014 New Media Writing Prize. So what Mez has given us today is she's given us a little teaser for a project that she's working on, which I'll share a YouTube video. It's a little bit laggy through Hangouts, so what we're going to do is we'll also we'll share a direct link to that so that you guys can all check it out in all its glory. But I'll give it a go right now, and we'll have a little look at what Mez has been working on.
What was that?
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Mez is on Twitter right now, so if anyone has any questions, well, she won't be able to answer through the video hangout. She can answer any questions you have about that project through Twitter, and so you'll see her on the DWF15 hashtag, but her handle is also Mez Breeze Design. So last up with today's batch, we have Jono Revanche. Jono Revanche is an expert on writing within the digital world. You should have seen his MySpace blog back in 2006. Jono is an artist and a writer, as well as being the editor of Vein, Australia's first LGBTQ zine for young artists. They've also had their work published in Overland, Rolling Stone, the Adelaide Fashion Week website, Lit Mag, and the StyleCon. And I'll flip it over to you, Jono.
Thanks, Connor, for that wonderful introduction, which I wrote. I'm actually, so as my introduction says, I'm the editor of Vein, which is a zine, and it sort of has basis in the online world as well as the physical world in which we are currently inhabiting. Its first was published at the end of 2013, which was when the first one came out. And basically, for about a year and a half, I accepted submissions from different young, emerging LGBTQ artists and writers and photographers, and sort of built up this steady stream of content on Tumblr, because that's a site that I'm familiar with, and a lot of teens are familiar with it, so I figured that I should just use that and make the most of my knowledge. And it's been pretty successful. It means that things get circulated really quickly. It means that dialogues can be opened up really successfully. And it means that, and it's also accessible. You know, it's not. It has sort of a basis in art and creativity, and it's like a really good medium for that. But I find that things like WordPress, for example, sometimes are pretty hard to, you know, manufacture and stuff. So I'm really into the idea of like teens using social media and doing it to kind of form an identity. Because that's how I feel like all of us grew up. Well, some of us grew up, sorry. So I really like that idea. And this one was the second one. So it's primarily focused on young photographers. There's also a few interviews in there, like with Jack Cowell, for example, who is like a musician who is gay. Talks about his experiences and how he makes music, as well as like Jack Mannix, for example. And because this is Digital Writers Festival, I will try to screen share some of the stuff which we've done online. There's been a lot of like photographic work in that time, so I suppose I'll just use that and see how it interacts with the written word. So this is an interview and a photo shoot we did with Jessica Says and Travis Cook from Collarbones, who are both queer artists and musicians, and we interviewed them about mental health and specifically that kind of thing with young queer people and how those two issues intersect. And that was in the second issue. And we also did a recent photo shoot for the next issue with Dan Thorpe, who is a gay composer from Adelaide. And Mariah Ansel is one of my best friends, and she does a lot of photography for the zine. So she did these two and this last photo shoot. And we basically haven't done much online work for a while, but I'm now planning to reformat the whole thing to include a more like targeted approach, to be more organized. But I think I'll still continue to use Tumblr because I'm so fond of it and it's so easy to use. And yeah, that's mainly the basis of what we do. We accept submissions, and I think there was some discussion about the importance of paying writers, even if it isn't as much as we would like, because I think that needs to be a standard which can be established and then built upon. I'm just going to stop my screen share. And yeah, so I'm planning to do that, and I'm also planning to do a new zine which will hopefully be released around April or May, hopefully early if I'm organized, but I have no faith in that. So, which is based around the idea of the cyborg, the idea of artificiality, and how that intersects with LGBTQ culture and how we can interpret that. So I'm planning to use that as both like a symbolic idea and an aesthetic, if you will, and kind of craft the zine around that. And I'm really excited for it. I think it'll be probably much higher quality than the last few ones, which I think were just kind of practices for me. And I'm really excited about the amount of people who are going to be in it, like a bunch of New York artists who I really love. A lot more international people who have like reached out to me, which is really exciting. And I feel like I could say so much more about opening new dialogues, because I think that this is about crafting a new area in which people can speak and be more comfortable about expressing themselves, especially in a world that tells people that if you're queer and if you're young, your experiences are irrelevant and alien. So I guess that's how this is relevant to the whole idea of opening up a new narrative. So yeah, I'll stop there. But yeah, that's kind of the basis of what I do. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
Thank
These
you.
projects have been incredible. We'll keep it relatively short, sharp and shiny, but I have a question for all of you about looking at how you go about creating these projects. And it's just a question about the degree to which you're relying on tools that already exist and how they shape the projects that you've been working on. So, for example, Karis, you were talking about Blurb. Adelaide, you're kind of looking at whether your project would work well on Google Hangouts or something similar to that. Jono, you were kind of looking at WordPress and sort of different social media networking tools and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Annabelle, obviously your project relied a lot more on custom sort of frameworks and things like that. You weren't really relying on things that already existed, as far as I can tell at least. So my question to all of you is, are the projects that you worked on, did you pick them because you had these tools in mind that already existed, or were you working the other way around? So, for example, Karis, would you have worked on this book project if it weren't for Blurb?
Right. So, like I said, it had been a blog for a number of years, and I'd considered self-publishing before, but it all seemed very hard, sort of doing it myself on InDesign and then finding a printer and then trying to get it out in bookstores, whereas Blurb kind of took a lot of that, sort of took a lot of those roles, and the software was really easy to use, as I mentioned as well. And also, I probably should have talked more about that, but Blurb actually gave me the funding and the support to do it. You know, I tried to be fair and still tell the pros and cons of using it, but yeah, it existed and I was presented with the opportunity. I didn't actually chase it myself. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. Annabelle, in terms of your project, to what degree was it you were kind of working, was it kind of an uphill struggle to get the technology working with your vision? And did you actually reach that stage where you feel as though it matches up with what you were imagining the project would actually look like?
That's a great question. I mean, one of the issues I had with my project is that I did not consider tools before I started. So I had these great ideas and I didn't think about what platforms I would develop them through. And I did run into quite a few problems with that. So though my app is web-based, and that is actually on a WordPress platform, but it's just been highly customized. So I worked with a web designer for that. But that in as well had limitations because everything cost. And so there were things I really dreamed of doing with the app that were not possible because of cost. But where I was really hamstrung was when it came to the actual production of the ebook, because I made my book really design focused. So it's told as a series of digital documents, and every type of digital document, the blog posts, the emails, the memos, all had their own design and logo and layout. And then when I actually came to self-publish it, I discovered that none of the ebook formats would tolerate that. And so I went through a stage of intense panic and trying to find a way to get my book out into the world. And in the end, I produced it as an interactive PDF, which kind of felt like a little bit of an old technology, but there wasn't new technology that was available to let me do what I needed to do. And so the PDF works fine, it looks great, you can read it on all the e-readers, but it meant that I had to reformat it for every different kind of e-reader in terms of the size and that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of work involved which I had not anticipated. And honestly, my husband basically did that whole thing for me. So because he knew how to use InDesign and I did not, and as Karis says, it's not like a really quick and easy software to learn. But I think just judging by Karis and my experience, for people who want to self-publish, InDesign is probably a great package to get familiar with.
Definitely.
Cool. Adelaide, you're kind of at the early stages of your project. Are you kind of looking at the platforms that you want to use and sort of working backwards from there?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the idea came to me when I was riding my bike, and I just thought at the time imagine if I could do this. And when I then sat down to think about how it would actually work, I remembered once my first ever Google Hangout where you can get these little masks that go over your face on the live video, and kind of remembered that and thought that that would be good. So I have tried things out on Google Hangouts, but the way that the kind of presenter would actually have to interface with the animations that are designed to go over the live footage, I don't think Google Hangouts is going to work. And so I have kind of done my standard just Googling exactly what it is that I want. So I just typed into Google, how can I draw over a live video? And if I can screen share it, I'll just try and show you what I mean by this. So let me just, okay, so this is a street view of Lake Burley Griffin. And then using this program that I just downloaded today, as soon as I press Control and start moving my mouse, I can draw all over the screen like so. And you can change the color of that sort of pencil, so to speak, and you can change the size of it and that sort of thing. So that's a kind of a really basic piece of software that I just found that can do pretty much what I want. But I'm hoping to work with someone, I'm not sure what they would be called, a web designer perhaps, or an app developer or someone, because I think for me this project is only going to work if it's a collaboration, because I have mostly a background as being a producer, not really having a kind of specific art form or skill base myself, and so for me the project is very much about how can I produce it, as opposed to how can I be the person who can press all the buttons or write all the code and do all that sort of stuff.
Cool. We've lost Jono, but if anyone has any questions for him about Vane or any of the other projects that he's working on, you can find him on Twitter, and you can find everyone can find all of you on Twitter by going through the events page and finding your Twitter handles. Mez Breeze is on Twitter right now, and she's answering the questions that I'm putting to all of you. And she has said that, answering Connor, the look of the tools shape Pluto massively. The underwiring of Unity can be seen poking through the interface. So I think it's kind of interesting the degree to which the tools that you've all been using have been shaping the projects. Even in the case of Annabelle, I wasn't aware of the degree to which that was actually happening, and same with Mez. It's kind of interesting, the limitations and how they're shaping everyone's vision. So I think it would be great if anyone's kind of taking stuff away from this and wanting to figure out how to use these tools and participate in the projects that everyone's working on, continue the discussion on Twitter and bring all of these artists in and kind of hash things out. The hashtag itself is DWF15, and you can contact all of the artists that we've got today directly on Twitter, and I'm sure that they'd be very, very happy to answer any questions that you might have about their projects. So thank you to absent Jono and absent Mez, and Annabelle, Karis, and Adelaide. Thanks for sharing your projects. They've been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Connor.